Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk coming at you on a Red Monday. Hi, hello, and how are you? Great to be with you on another soggy day in the capital city of Kansas. We've got 3 hours of 580 Sports Talk taking you up to Monday Night Football as the Kansas City Chiefs try to go to 8-0 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in town. Thanks for joining us on 580 Sports Talk here on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online 580WIBW.com, and a special hello to our YouTube viewers this afternoon, our live stream viewers. Check us out on the YouTube channel 580 Sports Talk. You can watch the live stream every day, and you can also check us out on Facebook at WIBW News. I am Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuis is with me. Brendan Dworzinski will be along in a bit. It'll be an ever-changing cast of characters as we go on about these next 3 hours, getting you all set, among other things, for Chiefs football tonight. The Chiefs and the Buccaneers wrapping up NFL Week 9 in a game that might be delayed at the start, just like last Monday night's game was, if the weather threat proves to be particularly menacing moving through the Kansas City metro area prior to kickoff. There is a chance that the game does not kick off at the regularly scheduled 7:15 Monday Night Football kickoff time. Whether it does or not, no pun intended, we'll have all the action for you right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9 from the Chiefs Radio Network. Mitch Holtis, Danon Hughes, Josh Klingeler, Art Haynes on the call tonight. Pregame will start at 6 right when we're done, and the kickoff, again, scheduled for 7:15, but they might be a little flexible if indeed the weather is nasty. It is supposed to move out eventually. The entire game, this should not be a repeat of the monsoon game against the Seahawks all those years ago, back in, I believe it was the early 90s. It should not be a repeat of that, but there is a chance for a start time delay, and there is a chance that at least early on in the game, it is wet, it is slippery, it is soggy, it is messy. The Chiefs have won in all kinds of ways in all different types of games. I don't think a bad weather game would faze them much, but we may be about to find out tonight. And we will talk plenty about it. We'll take a look at this matchup and do our normal preview bits for a Chiefs game that we typically do on Friday ahead of a Sunday game. We've got our keys to the game. We've got our predictions, our big Chief picks. We're going to break it all down today with Matt Verderame, our NFL insider from SportsIllustrated.com. Matt will join us at the bottom of this hour. We'll get his thoughts on Chiefs-Bucks, how they match up, and a look back at a fairly forgettable, to be honest, week number 9. It was not a great Sunday of NFL football. The games that were close were not particularly good or pleasant to watch. Some of the games that were heavily anticipated end up being pretty one-sided at the end of the day. I think all of the games we got on local TV here in the capital city of Kansas ended up being pretty lopsided. So we will get Matt's thoughts, and I'm sure he has many of them on what transpired in week number 9, and also thoughts on the trade deadline, which is coming up in not too long. Not like a matter of minutes, but we're inside of a couple of days before the end of the trade period in the NFL. Could the Chiefs still be active? Persistent rumors linking the Chiefs to a defensive back, specifically Marshawn Lattimore of the Saints, the player, ironically enough, drafted one pick after Patrick Mahomes. Could it happen? Could Brett Veach have one more trick up his sleeve? We will ask Matt Verderame coming up at the bottom of this hour. We got some college football to talk about as well. Going to be a little tougher now for K-State to get to Arlington or get to the college football playoff after they blow a 9-point second half, fourth quarter lead in a surprising loss to Houston. Now, I think it's clear at this point that Houston is further along than we were giving them credit for. And look, man, Willie Fritz can really coach. He can really, really coach. Weird stuff happens in bad weather games. It was a terrible weather game. Jason Benetti on the national Fox broadcast compared the conditions at one point in the second half in Houston to playing football inside a dishwasher, which I thought was a great turn of phrase. I'd never heard that one before. But You're up 19-10 with the ball, 12 minutes left. You got to finish. And K-State's been a good finishing team all year long, and they were not a good finishing team. Some of the signs were there. We kind of nodded at them on Friday's edition of the show, but they did come home to roost a little bit. K-State played with fire too many times, and they got burnt, and now they need to win out, and they need some help along the way if they're going to make it to the Big 12 championship game this year. We will break that one down for you. We've also got some baseball to talk. The hot stove is simmering for the Kansas City Royals. Michael Wacha back in Kansas City. A 3-year deal with a team option for a 4th year if Wacha ages gracefully into his late 30s. And the Royals now stand to bring back their entire 2024 starting pitching rotation intact for 2025. I think it's great news. I think it's a great sign. I think the Royals have firmly shown the organization, the kind of organization that they want to be moving forward. And I think it should hearten Royals fans everywhere. And we'll talk about why I see that in the Michael Wacha signing. As we move forward, we'll talk a little baseball. Also, pair of gold gloves coming to Kansas City as well. We'll get there, too. We got our 580 Sports Talk headlines that we'll get to. Top of the 5 o'clock hour. We'll start a new week of What Is Wrong With You. We'll do good, bad, ugly from the weekend that was. Jam-packed show today, and you are, as always, invited and encouraged to be a part of the program. You can text the show. The Top City Mental Supply text line is wide open, 785-272-9429. That's 785-272-9429. From construction sites to renovations, from the farm to the garage, Top City Metal Supply understands the value of precision and cost efficiency. No more wasted materials, no more wasted money, just metal cut to the exact size you need. Top City Metal Supply, located on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field. The sponsors of our text line, 785-272-9429. Also, if you're watching the show live on YouTube today, again, the YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. You can watch along live. There is a live chat feature, and you can interact with your hosts and with fellow listeners throughout the program today. If you are watching on YouTube, hello to Mark and Paul and Casey who've already checked in with comments, and hello to everyone else who is watching on YouTube today. Also, if you're watching on Facebook, you can leave us comments as well. Facebook page is 580, WIBW News on Facebook. But let's get started with the Chiefs. It's a Red Monday after all. Chiefs, Buccaneers, the lone unbeaten in the National Football League, trying to push it to 8-0. Keys to the ball game. Now I'll go with mine first. This should be, on paper, a big game for the Chiefs passing game. Now, if it rains buckets for 4 hours tonight, forget I said any of this. Even if Patrick Mahomes can spin it in anything, and I mean, he said that himself, who are we not to take Patrick at his word on that particular topic? The rain will make it a little tougher on both teams to throw the ball tonight. But if the conditions allow, there should be a major advantage for the Chiefs passing game. They are number one in the league. As much as we look at the stats and we complain about the lack of explosive plays with the Chiefs passing game, I say we, really the royal we here. I have done a fair amount of complaining about that. Maybe you have too. Maybe you're totally fine with how it looks. The argument in favor of this passing offense being just fine, actually, success rate. The stat we have talked about throughout this year. The Chiefs have the most successful offense in football when you consider success rate. What is success rate? You're getting 50% or more of the yards you need on first down. You're getting 70% or more of the yards you need on second down, and you are converting on third down or fourth down. If your play does that, it is a successful play. The Chiefs have been the offense with the best success rate in the NFL, and that includes all their dropbacks. 53.7% of the Chiefs dropbacks. More than half the time they drop back to pass, the play is successful. That's number one in the league. The Buccaneers are on the other end of the spectrum when it comes to their pass defense. They are 31st in the league in success rate allowed. Nearly half of dropbacks against the Buccaneers defense go down as successful plays, 49.8%. It is not a good pass defense, is what I am telling you. And the Chiefs passing game should be improved this week, having had another week to integrate DeAndre Hopkins into the offense. I would expect, again, conditions have to allow for this. If it's a monsoon tonight, maybe this doesn't matter as much. But should the conditions allow, this feels like a week where the Chiefs can go nuts through the air and move the chains repeatedly through the air. And I am fascinated because we already saw last week the early impact of DeAndre Hopkins. He was just out there for a handful of snaps and only got 3 targets. He's going to get more than 3 targets tonight. I can pretty much promise you that. He will be targeted more than 3 times tonight. In fact, it wouldn't shock me if he doubled his target share. And I don't think it's out of the question that he triples it. I really don't think it's out of the question that DeAndre Hopkins gets 9-10 targets tonight. And again, against a passing defense like this, why shouldn't he? Why shouldn't he be the focal point of the Chiefs offense? That's what you get a wide receiver like him to be. Against a secondary that has some names, like Antoine Winfield Jr. is still a great player. Chiefs fans, of course, don't have fond memories of Winfield. He was the one that taunted Tyreek Hill, Super Bowl 55. Ran to him on the field specifically to taunt him at the end of that game. But he's a great player. But the scheme, the entire back end of this Buccaneer defense, they have been lousy against the pass. The numbers don't lie. And that should be a major advantage for the Chiefs. The second key to the game for me, continue to dominate against the running game. Now, this gets even more important if indeed the majority of tonight's game is played in a downpour. Tampa Bay's best running back is Bucky Irving. I don't know if they know that yet, but he's their best running back. And he is not 100%. He's going to play, and the Buccaneers have essentially said, look, we're just going to have to deal with him dealing with this injury probably the rest of the season. It's a toe injury. It's not one of those things that it's going to get a lot better anytime soon, so he may as well play through it. But he's not 100%. Rachaad White is the other running back. I have never really thought Rachaad White was all that good. I don't understand why it seems like Todd Bowles and the Buccaneers coaching staff is giving him as many snaps as Irving, unless they're just load managing Irving with that toe injury. But it's not a great running game, is my point. It's got a little more punch than the Las Vegas running game, which the Chiefs completely eliminated last week. But we have seen better rushing attacks than this one wilt under the relentless run fits and tackling ability of this Chiefs defense. Keep forcing offenses into 3rd and long and make Baker Mayfield beat you on 3rd and longs. Baker Mayfield has never lacked for confidence. We know this. But hey, here's a fun game we can play. Who's playing wide receiver for the Buccaneers? Mike Evans isn't. And we know Chris Godwin isn't. What do you know about guys like Trey Palmer and Jalen McMillan and Sterling Shepard and somebody who I'm told is a real person named Ryan Miller? There's no way that's a real guy. Come on. Ryan Miller. I never heard of this guy in my life. I'm looking at him right now. He's got 4 catches this year. He's a rookie out of Furman. That's wide receiver 4 right now for the Buccaneers. Jalen McMillan's a rookie out of Washington. He's got 10 catches. Trey Palmer is a second-year guy out of Nebraska. He has 7 catches. And Sterling Shepard's the veteran, and he's banged up. He's got 11 catches. So they're really hurting at wide receiver. I think this is a situation where the Chiefs can trust their corners in man-to-man against those guys. I don't think there's a lot of man beaters in that group. Like Mike Evans is a man coverage beater, and Chris Godwin is a man coverage beater. But those guys aren't playing. So I think the Chiefs are going to be able, if they are able to force 3rd and long for the Buccaneers, they're going to be able to pin their ears back and they're going to come after Baker Mayfield. And those guys are going to have to get open. And all the best with that. Now, Brendan points out in the show notes, he's not here right now, but Brendan points out in the show notes that Cade Otton, the tight end, is probably Mayfield's favorite target right now. Early in the year, we talked a lot about, oh, man, the Chiefs are really struggling against tight ends this year, really having a hard time against tight ends this season. We haven't really had that conversation in recent weeks. I hope we don't have a reason to have that conversation tomorrow. But since the injury to Evans and Godwin, because remember, Evans got hurt early against Baltimore. Godwin, of course, got hurt late in the final minute of that game. And then they played Atlanta last week. Cade Otton's numbers in the last 2 games, 17 catches for 181 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had both of those touchdowns in the loss to Atlanta last week. So all those hoot-ats at wide receiver, Otton is target 1 right now. And with all due respect to Cade Otton, who's had a fine career, 3rd-year player out of Washington, it ain't like we're talking about prime Travis Kelce here, right? So you've got to limit his impact. And you've got to make sure that he's not the game breaker on those 3rd and medium and 3rd and longs that I expect Tampa Bay to be living in throughout tonight's game. Spencer points out, Spencer will be along in a little bit too. Spencer points out that pressuring Mayfield is going to be critical in this game, and I agree with him. That's why I really think we're going to see a lot of blitzing. I think that Spagnuolo generally trusts his guys on the back end to play man defense on those 3rd and longs. Like, when you blitz, you have to play man on the back end. And Spags loves to blitz. And that's a sign how much he trusts his guys on the back end. Well, you can really trust him on the back end when instead of having to check big Mike Evans, future Hall of Famer Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin, big play threat, you're trying to check Ryan Miller or Trey Palmer or whoever. So I think we're going to see Spags get diabolical on some 3rd downs tonight. And for Mahomes, on the other side, particularly if this does end up being a weather game, so to speak, get the ball out. Let guys make plays after the catch. This could be a big Xavier Worthy game if that ends up being the case. Straight line speed still plays in bad weather. It's hard to play the perimeter game. It's hard to play the east to west game in the bad weather, but north to south speed will play. And Xavier Worthy's got record-breaking north to south speed. I think he can make an impact tonight, even if it does get soggy. Those are my keys to the game. And I think that this feels like a game, again, eliminate the weather from the equation. And this does feel like a game where you kind of think it's a get right for the Chiefs offense, the Chiefs passing game in particular. Weather could throw a wrench in it. So, again, we will see what comes of the forecast tonight as a storm front moves through greater Kansas City and the Truman Sports Complex. We've got predictions and our big Chief picks coming up after this first time out. Then Matt Verderame will join us bottom of the hour to talk Week 9 and preview Chiefs Buccaneers, our NFL insider. We are just getting started on this Red Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Thanks for being with us on 580 WIBW. 328 on 580 Sports Talk. We are just getting started on this Red Monday edition of the show. Matt Verderame, our NFL insider, going to join us in just a little bit. But first, let's get our predictions and our big Chief picks in for the week. Per our pals at Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta, the Chiefs are favored by 9 points tonight. And the total is 45.5. You're over under 45.5 tonight. And looks like we've all got, well, no, we don't all have the Chiefs covering because Spencer Dupuis, you think we're going to get a push tonight, but you're still foreseeing a comfortable Chiefs win.
Yeah, I thought the line was somewhere else. I thought it was at 8.5.
It may have been. It is at 9 right now.
I think I saw at 8.5 at another.
You may well have.
Yes.
You may well have. Whether maybe moved one book or another to drop the line. But what I'm looking at right now, our pals at Prairie Band Sportsbook up in Mayetta at Prairie Band Casino Resort have it at Chiefs -9. And you've got Chiefs -9.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you care to explain why?
I've got the Chiefs winning 30-21. Yeah, the Buccaneers, it's going to be tough for them to be in a battle, I think. They just don't have the weapons to be in a battle. And I think the Chiefs ultimately, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to, do something dumb tonight and throw another pick and give them a free possession. And that's why I thought it could be, closer to your score, like 13 difference. Like that's the difference.
So yeah, I'm picking the Chiefs 30-17.
Yes.
I do, like, obviously, if it pours buckets, throw all this out. But
yeah,
I and it should, like, it'll rain, I think, for the start of the game. I'm not doubting that there's going to be some weather tonight. But this feels like a game where the Chiefs have such a significant edge in the passing game that they'll be able to unlock everything they want to do on offense. And I don't. Like, I'm right there with you. I don't think the Buccaneers can keep up if the Chiefs are scoring efficiently and driving the ball because they just don't have, like you said, the weapons. And I don't think their running game is going to get going against
one of their defense. Running backs is questionable. I don't know what the latest status is.
He'll play, but Bucky Irving's going to play. The toe injury he's got is just one of those deals that he's got to play through.
Yeah, I didn't know if the weather would have put, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Sometimes the weather causes teams to not play a guy because they think he's going to get re-injured.
That could be true. My understanding, we haven't seen the inactives, and we won't until much later in the show, later in the afternoon, but I would expect Bucky Irving will play. Like, they are keeping him out of practice with the understanding that this enables him to just go on game day. So, but even if they do have full bore Bucky Irving, like, why do I think this is going to be the team that runs the ball against the Chiefs? Like, what evidence do we have that they're going to be the team to do it? So, yeah, I've got the Chiefs 30-17. Brendan actually does have the Buccaneers covering. I'm bad at math. Brendan's got the Buccaneers within 8 tonight. 26-18 is his prediction. Big Chiefs, you each have a tight end as your big chief. Brendan went with, he stayed on Team Diabetes, went with Noah Gray. You've got the big man.
Yeah, I think Travis Kelce's going to do some things tonight. His lady's probably going to be in the house. He somehow boarded a jet and went up to Indianapolis and was in the house for her Saturday night. So, and I heard she killed it. So I think he's going to kill it with her in the house.
Yeah, got to return the favor, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going with George Karlaftis. I'm going with a defensive player tonight. Again, I think the Chiefs are going to be in a situation where they can get after the quarterback. Karlaftis has been really good. Maybe hasn't had the sack numbers to show it, but he's played really good football. Well, now he's going to be in a spot where Joshua Uche is rushing from the other side, and Mike Dana is going to be back. Mike Dana, rather, will be back this week.
He is, because I thought he was ruled out.
Maybe you're right, but Uche is going to play.
Yes.
And so I think that the additional pass rush presence, the point I was trying to make, which is correct whether Dana goes or not, the additional pass rush presence on the other side is going to open things up for George, and I think he has at least a sack tonight. We'll take a timeout here on 580 Sports Talk. Come back with Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated, our NFL insider on 580 Sports Talk.
So there's a good chance you were there the day you were born. There for your first day. There for your growing family. There for your scares and celebrations. And we're here for you now. Call 888-565-4199 or visit bcbsks.com/choose-MA and switch to a Medicare Advantage plan today. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas offers Medicare Advantage PPO plans. Enrollment dependent on contract renewal. Not connected with or endorsed by the U.S. government or the federal Medicare program.
WIBW, Topeka. Football.
Matt! Okay, now go out and catch a ball for a change, all right?
Matt? You just don't understand football, Mark.
Matt.
10 heels, 16 stars, glory. That's forever.
How can you not be romantic about football, man?
We will be joined momentarily by Matt Verderame, our NFL insider from Sports Illustrated, SI.com. He joined us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline every Monday on this program. You can also catch Matt's work on That Football Show on the KC Sports Network and the Matt Verderame Show, his own subscriber-only Patreon. Check him out on Twitter, @Matt Verderame. He joins us now here on 580 Sports Talk. And Matt, let's start with tonight's game. We'll start with the Chiefs and the Buccaneers to wrap up week number 9. And weather could certainly have an impact on this game tonight. But if in the event that it is not a significant impact, does this feel to you like this could be a matchup that the Chiefs passing game should be able to take advantage of?
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, I'm in Kansas City right now, so the weather is definitely a factor at the current moment. I would say yes, no question. It's a game where, if we're being honest, the Buccaneers have really struggled defensively this year. They've not been good in almost every single category. I mean, they give up a ton of yards per play. They're bad against the run. They give up a big chunk of their third downs. They don't cover particularly well. I mean, this is a game where the Chiefs offensively, if they don't turn the ball over, take penalties, they really should have a good day. Now, look, it said maybe weather is a factor. Maybe the Buccaneers have something in store for them that the Chiefs just don't handle. But yes, I mean, theoretically speaking, yes, the Chiefs should have a big day tonight offensively.
Defensively, what do you make of this matchup for the Chiefs? Because it doesn't feel like the Buccaneers right now have enough weapons on offense to hang if the Chiefs are able to have a big night offensively themselves. But what do you think is the biggest advantage for the Chiefs defensively tonight?
They know what's coming. I mean, the Buccaneers are going to have to run the football. And they've run the ball well, for the record. They've run the ball very well with Irving and with White. But they're going to have to. There's no world the Buccaneers are winning this game if they don't run the ball really well. I just don't see that now. Listen, the Buccaneers are very good on third down. They're number 1 in the league. Chiefs are number 2, so that's something to watch. Now, granted, Evans and Godwin were a big part of that, and now with them gone, I think that number is going to come down significantly. But, yeah, look, I think if you're the Chiefs, you've got to shut off the run. And then Mayfield, if you look at his numbers, he is not a guy who throws the ball down the field. It is a lot of dink and dunk. They throw to their backs a lot. They throw to their tight end, Cade Otton, quite a bit. So if you're the Chiefs, you almost want to try to force them to throw the ball outside the numbers, throw the ball down the field. It's not something with their current setup that they're going to have a lot of success with.
We're joined by Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated here on 580 Sports Talk. And Matt, do you think this could be, obviously week 2 for DeAndre Hopkins? Do you think they could really open things up and target him a lot more tonight?
Yeah, I think you'll see him more. I think you'll see more of him. Look, they're going to still work him in a little bit, but yes, I would think, you'll probably see like double the snaps, put him right around 50% of their offensive snaps. I think, he was brought in here in a lot of ways to replace Rashee Rice. And he's not going to have the production that Rice did, but to play that role, to take on that slot inside position, be a factor on third down. So, yeah, I would expect that you're going to see Hopkins a lot more. And the Buccaneers, as we talked about, this is not a defense that scares you. This is a defense that the Chiefs should have success against. And I would imagine that if there's an opportunity to get Hopkins going, acclimate him into the offense, this is a pretty good time for it.
And then with Dana out tonight due to that pec once again, do you think they're going to use Josh Uche a lot more than maybe had anticipated with him having a full week since the trade?
I think they'll use him on third downs mostly. I mean, that was always kind of his role in New England. Was he played about a third of their defensive snaps. He's a pure pass rusher. He's going to come in and he is going to go right after the quarterback. They're not playing the run with him. They're not asking him to cover. He's going to come in and he's going to rush. And so, I think you will see him on third downs in this game. I would expect that you'll see him. If they get in the second and long, maybe he'll come in there for a snap or so. But yes, I think you will see him. And with Dana out, you might see him and FAU a little bit more than you normally would.
Our guest is our NFL insider, Matt Verderame, joining us here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Joins us every Monday at this time to talk all things Chiefs and the National Football League at large. Let's get into the NFL. Week number 9 just about in the books. A full slate of games yesterday that maybe wasn't the most inspiring slate we'll get this year, but one team came out of it looking extremely impressive, playing really good football, even in the absence of their best defensive player. The Detroit Lions are steamrolling teams right now. They look to have seized the mantle as the clear-cut NFC favorite. Why have they been able to keep it going even with Aiden Hutchinson on the sideline?
Because they don't make mistakes. I mean, you watch that game against the Packers, and Goff didn't throw for a crazy amount of yards, but he didn't make any bad throws. Love did. Love made a brutal decision for the half. And it put them in a hole that the Packers were not going to get out. I think, when you watch that Titans game, the Lions hung a 50-burger on them, and the Lions are like 200 yards of offense. But again, they run the ball very well. They stay on schedule. Goff is extremely efficient. If you're going to beat the Lions, you're going to do it getting them behind the sticks. You've got to force Goff into games where he's got to be in 3rd and 7, 3rd and okay, they beat me, and see what happens. I think you got some success there. If they're in 3rd and 3 all the time, first of all, they're so aggressive on 4th down. They'll just run the ball in 3rd and 3. They don't care. But they've been able to really stay on task. And when you're scoring that many points, they're controlling the clock the way they have. The defense, they can be more aggressive. They can take more chances. I think that's masking a little bit of this loss of Hutchinson. But I don't think there's any question right now. Listen, they are far and away, the favorites in the NFC. I mean, for me, before the season, I picked them and the Chiefs to be in the Super Bowl. I mean, I wouldn't change it. That's for sure. Those two teams, in my eyes, are clearly above everybody else in the NFL.
The Baltimore Ravens got back to business on Sunday. They absolutely throttled the Broncos in Baltimore. And the Ravens are so frustrating, Matt, because what I call it bozo mode, when teams just make mistakes and do silly things. And the Ravens enter bozo mode far too often for a team that's that good. But, man, when they're at their best, they took a Denver team that had some confidence and was doing things well and just made them look inept for 60 minutes.
Yeah, look, I mean, that game was a weird matchup for Denver in the sense that the one way to beat Baltimore this year, you can just throw on them all night. They can't stop you. They have no answer against the pass. Well, Denver can't throw the ball. So, got to a point where Denver had to throw, and normally that's a problem for the Ravens. They've given up leads this year. We saw them do it against the Browns. We saw them do it against the Raiders. They will give up big passing play, even at bad teams. The Broncos just simply couldn't do it, and it snowballed. Jackson's having a big day. Flowers has a huge day. Henry has a typical Derrick Henry day, 100 yards, couple touchdowns. And there really just was no left hand for the Broncos to go to. They couldn't recover. And for the Ravens, look, they had to win that game. I mean, you're 5-3. You're coming off an awful loss. You got to win that game. They got the Bengals in a short week at home this week. If they lose that game, all of a sudden you're kind of slipping. But they got right. They get to 6-3, and now they got a big week coming up, as I mentioned, where if they win this game, look, the Bengals are cooked as far as catching the Ravens are concerned. It's really maybe the most intriguing game in the entire Week 10 slate.
And Matt, we had another coach firing this morning as the Saints have fired Dennis Allen after their 7th straight loss. 2-part question here. Where do they go from here going forward? And do you think they could have a fire sale tomorrow to get some more contracts off the books for next year?
They should. I don't know that they will, because they have been hesitant to ever make any kind of a common sense move when it comes to salary cap. But look, I think Lattimore's in play, and I think for the Saints, you should be considering all options right now. And that team, look, they don't want to have to admit this to themselves. I get why. They're going to be an expansion team for a few years. Like, that's coming with this cap situation. They're going to have to sell off a huge chunk of that team, and in so doing, eat a massive cap hit on a bunch of those guys. It's going to happen. Now, whether they accept reality or not is hard to say, but I do think the Lattimore is on the block, or at least certainly they listen. And then as far as where they go from here, it's a brutal job. I mean, if you're a coach with any options, you're not taking that job. You're not. They're in cap hell. They have no quarterback. A lot of their good players, like Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, Tyron, they're old. They're old. Like, they're not. What are you doing with it? Chris Olave is terrific, and I feel bad for him because he's hurt all the time. He's got another concussion. Kamara for a running back older. It's a bad situation. I just don't know if you're a coach who's got 2-3 offers on the table, you're going to take that job. You're going to be taken out for free.
Verderame is our NFL insider, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Find him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. Read his work, sportsillustrated.si.com. Subscribe to the Patreon subscribers-only Matt Verderame Show for more great insight. Matt, speaking of fired coaches, there are two that appear to kind of be dead coaches walking. Mike McCarthy in Dallas, Matt Eberflus in Chicago. What are those teams waiting for?
Well, the Cowboys, look, I mean, now Prescott's out. If you're Jerry, I don't know what good it does to fire McCarthy right now. I think he's going to get fired. One would imagine. But I think if you're Jerry, and look, I'm not trying to take up for Jerry Jones here, but I get it. There's no upside. With the Bears, they're still in contention. It hasn't obviously gone the way they've wanted the last few weeks. They were awful yesterday. No excuses. But I think they look at it like, hey, we're still right there. We can maybe make the playoffs. We don't want to upset the apple cart. But I think, look, if it goes the way it's going, and the Bears end up 7-10 or 8-9, I think that's it for Eberflus. And for Jerry, I would expect they make their move on McCarthy at the end of the year, and then they throw every single time they have a Belichick. I mean, that is, you talk to people in the league. I think there's at least somewhat of an expectation Jerry's going to go after Belichick and doesn't get him. Hey, we'll see. But I would be very surprised if there's not a firing in Dallas at the end of the year and then overturn for the Belichick.
Matt, the trade deadline is in less than 24 hours. 3 o'clock Central Time tomorrow, the NFL trade deadline. The Chiefs have already been active, obviously, with the additions of DeAndre Hopkins and Joshua Uche. There are persistent rumors that they are not finished. How realistic is it that the Chiefs add an impact player, not just a warm body, but an impactful guy between now and 3 p.m. tomorrow?
It's realistic. I mean, I've talked to some people around situation, and look, I mean, they've got to get the right deal for themselves. I think that's a fair way of putting it. But if there's a corner that they feel good about, I think they would do it. I mean, I don't think they're fooling themselves. Watson's out for the year, and you got Najee Johnson's unproven. He's dealing with concussion, and Joshua Williams is a guy who's been around the team, but it hasn't. Look, it's never turned into consistent playing time. I firmly believe that Chiefs get a deal on the table for a corner that they feel is a fair deal, they'll do it. Now, the question is who and for what? If it's Lattimore, he's tricky. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler. He's 28 years old. But he's also been hurt at times the last couple of years. He's got this year and 2 more on his deal. Do the Saints look at that and say, hey, look, if you're going to get him for a long-term play, we want a 2nd and a 5th. I don't know that the Chiefs would do that. If the Saints would say, hey, look, we'll do a 3rd, maybe the Chiefs would do that and say, okay, we'll give you Tennessee's 3rd. Now, I'm just kind of giving my own 2 cents. But I think the Chiefs, if the right deal presents itself, I think the Chiefs would be somewhat aggressive.
Give me a shot in the dark prediction a little bit, or a call a shot a little bit. Give us the biggest name you think could move, not will move necessarily, but who's the biggest name that you would not be surprised to see wearing a new uniform by tomorrow?
Look, in the spirit of taking a big swing here, I don't know that it's going to happen. I could see somebody offering the moon for Myles Garrett. I would bet that he stays in Cleveland, but I think there's a world where somebody calls up Cleveland and says, we'll give you 1 and 2 twos or something. Maybe one of them's conditional. I just think the Browns are to a point where that thing's got to get blown up. They need picks in the worst way. They haven't had them for years. I wonder if they got a call that was a big offer, if they would take the call and seriously listen.
Do you think that there will be a lot of buyers tomorrow? Do you expect a lot of activity in the next 24 hours, or do you think this might be a little bit quieter given that a lot of teams have already addressed needs?
I think there's going to be a lot of activity. I don't know that it's going to be a ton of big names moving. I think Lattimore is probably the biggest one that people are looking at and going, okay, so you're going to get dealt. There's other guys like Darius Slayton with the Giants. The Bears, they're an interesting team. I don't think they're going to sell, but would they? Would they trade Keenan Allen? You look at some of these other teams that are 7-loss teams like the Titans. Tyler Boyd at this point was not a huge name, but it may would he move? Maybe. I think it's going to be a lot of those mid-tier guys and late round picks. But Lattimore is the big fish to watch. Slayton, to some degree, is a big fish to watch. Jacoby Myers, he get dealt. Those are the guys I would look at. And then, listen, the pie-in-the-sky guys are the Garretts of the world. I don't see the Raiders trading Crosby. I just don't see it. But, listen, anything's possible. A big enough offer's made. So I would expect a lot of, mid-level guys to get moved. But, hey, you never know. All it takes is one offer, and all of a sudden everything's on a tier.
Matt Verderame is our NFL insider, joins us every Monday here on 580 Sports Talk. Read his work at SI.com, Sports Illustrated's website. You can also check him out on Twitter at Matt Verderame. Matt, always a pleasure. Enjoy KC, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
That is Matt Verderame. We'll take a break, come back with the good, the bad, the ugly from the weekend that was, coming up on 580 Sports Talk. All right, we're going to be quick on this edition of the Good, Bad, Ugly from the weekend. Spencer, what was your good?
My good was touring new apartments because the lease ends here in a few months and need to get out of this one bedroom into a more spacious place. North Topeka has some great places to offer, and tried the Pennant this weekend. Very good burger.
Nice. Yeah, they do have good burgers.
Yes.
Good for me is I didn't go anywhere this weekend. I could just stay home and help around the house and hang out with my son and watch the NFL and watch college football on Saturday. And I enjoyed that very much, especially because of how rainy it was outside. What was your bad?
My bad and ugly are combined. They were the fact that Marshall and Kansas State were my picks in college football, and they were up. I was going to win those ones. I was going to win those ones, and then I wasn't.
Then you weren't. Then then you did not. My bad for the weekend. Yeah, Kansas State have 9-point fourth quarter lead. Got to finish. And that's a big blow to their hopes. My ugly, Derek Carr throwing that hospital ball that got Chris Olave carted off the field, and Michael Thomas getting on Twitter to say a lot of really mean and accurate things about Derek Carr. My favorite was, quote, "He is ass on my granny."
The video of him in a parking lot, did you see that one?
No, I did not see the video.
He's been going on about the Saints recently.
He is ass on my granny is one that I plan to use quite often. We got K-State football to talk about and Royals baseball to get into as they've re-signed Michael Wacha. Plus, what is wrong with you coming up in the next hour on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2 on this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Thanks for making us a part of your Monday afternoon here on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. We were told there was a stream issue earlier today. That appears to have been fixed. And for those of you watching us on video, we are live on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the channel. We are live on Facebook. WIBW News is the page. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, and Spencer Dupuis. Gang's all here. Brendan back. He'll be here the rest of the show. Spencer's with one more hour, and then he'll move on.
Yeah,
and
I was spear hunting trout during the first hour of the show.
Fun. Did you catch any?
No.
Okay.
Doesn't work very well.
Now, you and Fulton. Just
Oh, man. Fulton Caster is one of my favorite people in the entire world. He has been a good friend to me for a very, very long time. And I have nothing but positive things to say about him as a person. However, he also once went on a fishing trip and caught no fish.
I feel like there's more references to Fulton on this show than there is to the other departed in Jake.
No, we make lots of references to Jake. Jake was just around for way longer.
Yeah. I feel like Jake was so ubiquitous with the show. Fulton was like Haley's Comet. Like, it wasn't around for long, but boy, was it memorable. Wow, look, a comet. I bet you it can't fish either.
Sorry, if it lands in a lake, it would definitely have resulted in more dead fish than Fulton Caster did.
Man, poor guy.
Why do we do this?
Fulton
to
still
him?
listens to sometimes.
He might. I hope he's still at work. I hope he hasn't turned the radio on yet.
Fulton, if you're listening, text me. You go ahead and text me a roast. It's fine, pal. I heard on the broadcast of a game yesterday. It was the Falcons-Cowboys game. Cavante Turpin did something stupid, I think. I think it was Cavante Turpin did something dumb. And Greg Olsen hit him with Bud. He's like, game's on the line, Bud. And I thought, oh, man, he got that straight from Fulton. That's how Fulton always talks down to someone. Hits him with Bud. You never want another grown man calling you Bud.
Good old Fulton. Still to come this hour of the show, the Royals spending money, splashing cash before free agency even officially opens. 3-year deal for Michael Wacha. He'll be back in Royal Blue next season. We'll talk about that. Also, first round of What is Wrong with You for this new week, this first full week of November. Also, your comments, your predictions for tonight's Chiefs game, your thoughts on Chiefs, Royals, K-State, KU, whatever we've got talking about. We want to hear from you. Hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line. That number is 785-272-9429. You can also find us in the live chat on the YouTube stream. Interact with us. If you are watching live on YouTube, again, the channel is 580 Sports Talk. You can comment as well if you're watching on Facebook, WIBW News. Houston 24, K-State 19. Final score on a dreary and rainy Saturday afternoon at TDECU Stadium in Houston. A game that at one point Jason Benetti described as being like playing football in a dishwasher, which I am stealing that if I am ever doing a game where it is raining.
Dude, he's so good.
Yes.
And he is so good at his job.
And it's such a vivid description of how hard it had to be raining at the time. At the time he made that description, K-State was winning the football game. And I'll be honest with you, when it was 19-10, I really thought at that point we weren't going to see a whole lot more scoring. Like, I didn't see how it was going to be possible, frankly, because neither team could run the ball effectively. And it just felt like it was going to be slam it in the line, punt it away, trust your defense. Maybe Houston's got to try and make some desperation passes, but that wouldn't have been anything I would have been real scared of if I had been the K-State defense. And then K-State threw the ball, and Avery Johnson threw it to the other team. And short touchdown, and then Zion Crisp broke one big run. That was all it took. As K-State lets that 9-point lead get away. Second straight week, it should be said. We need to start with, like, a tip of the cap to Willie Fritz in Houston. They are already at, like, the fully realized Willie Fritz, like, stage of being a football team where you were just a pain in the backside to everyone you play.
It is unreal that they are 4-5 now with a win over a legitimate playoff contender in Kansas State. Like, if you, I'm speaking to the greater college football world, if you are not putting Willie Fritz on the list with Chris Kleiman, and maybe not this year, but generally like with Lance Leipold, like the best, not just program builders, but coaches in the country. Like I'm putting him up there with anybody. I'm putting him up there with Lanning, any of these dudes. You're wrong. You are objectively wrong if you do not put Willie Fritz in that group. This is a 2-10 roster, maybe. And they've got 4 wins with multiple games left.
Well, they found their quarterback, first and foremost. Like, Zion Chris completed all 11 of his passes and ran the ball pretty effectively. Like, they found a solution. It's a lot better for them than Donovan Smith is, and they're 3-1 with him as the starter, and the only loss was the game he didn't finish. It was the game at Kansas. So they found an identity, and their defense is legitimately good. Like, they've got a top-half defense at least, at minimum, in the league. What was his name? I'm going to forget his last name. Hershey was his first name. But that dude was all over the place. Hershey McLaurin?
Yeah.
McClendon, something like that. Hershey Hawkins?
McLaurin.
It was McLaurin? Okay. It was not former Philadelphia 76er Hershey Hawkins. Bradley great, Hershey Hawkins. No, he was great. All over the field. Yeah. Stopping the run, stopping the pass. Credit where it's due to Houston. They stayed in that game. It's the second straight week that they've come back and scored twice in the fourth quarter to win a game that on paper they had no business winning against a team that's not as talented as they are, because they did it to Utah the week before, and now they do it to K-State. Credit where it is due. That being said, like, the signs were there for K-State going into the game. When we had Tim Fitzgerald on last week for the Wildcat wrap-up, Tim Fitzgerald, go powercat.com, he told us he thought K-State looked tired against Kansas.
Yeah.
And I thought they looked like a tired football team against Houston. I think they have looked like a tired football team in the trenches for a couple of weeks now. We're going on 3 weeks. K-State hasn't been able to run the ball. I know they averaged 5.5 yards a carry against Kansas, excuse me. That was 2 plays. Like, Giddens busted one long one. Dylan Edwards busted one long one. Other than that, K-State was around 3 yards a carry. They were at 2.6 yards per carry. They can't run the ball right now.
Yep.
And I think that the offense is also becoming entirely too predictable right now.
Yep.
There was that shot in the fourth quarter on a 3rd down. They were showing the Houston defensive coordinator, and this was another sign. Houston defensive coordinator going no sleeves in a driving rainstorm. I mean, you're not losing to a team.
Idiot or genius?
Yeah.
It's a fine line.
Yeah, it really is. But they showed him, and they were talking about him before a 3rd and long play, a play where you knew K-State was going to have to pass the ball. And then you started to see him make a driving motion with his hand, which was to signal to his defense, wheel route's coming. And we know K-State loves the wheel route, and that's exactly what they did. They threw the wheel to DJ Giddens, like a yard up the field, and he gained 2 yards, and that was the end of that drive. Like, the pet concepts for K-State are being deployed in very predictable fashion right now. The interior line isn't getting any punch. And right now it's an offense that's a little stuck in the mud. And I do think that fatigue plays a role in that. There's only one other team in the Big 12 that has a stretch at any point, like the one K-State just endured, where they played 1 home game in 40 days, and they had a stretch of 4 straight game weeks with 3 of those 4 on the road. There's only one other Big 12 team that had a 4-game stretch, a 4-week stretch with 3 road games in 4, and that's Oklahoma State. You see how things are going for them right now. They've essentially run up the white flag. They're 0-6 in the conference. So I do think there were a lot of reasons why Kansas State lost that game. Failure has many fathers. Is it a long-term concern, or is it one that you look at given the circumstances, given the spot, given the weather, and you just say, hey, man, tip your cap, flush it, and I'm not any more worried about K-State than I was for their final 3 games before what we saw against Houston?
This, to me, I'm feeling Mike Matheny vibes here, because I'm not tipping my cap after a game like this. I hope this makes sense. I think these are all short-term issues. I do not know that they will be fixed in the short term. Like, what is going to change with Connor Riley in the next 3 weeks? That's my question. Do you think Avery's scared to get hit? Because I'm going to be honest with you. if you're trying to make Avery Johnson a pure drop back passer, like if you're trying to turn him into Joe Burrow back there, I hate to break it to you, K-State, you're not going to accomplish what you want to accomplish. Avery Johnson is going to be at his best. And at his best, I would like to make this very clear, is first team all Big 12, maybe getting an invitation to New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony one day. That is the best that Avery Johnson can be. You know what's not going to help him get there? Try to be a pure drop back guy.
So here's my counterpoint on this. They had to do that at West Virginia, and he was awesome. Like, he didn't run the ball once at West Virginia, and he was great. Now, West Virginia's passing defense is terrible, and their defense as a whole isn't as good as Houston's.
They're also poorly coached.
But the problem is you put a lot of stuff on film that, like, I go back to the pet concepts, like the stuff that right now as a sophomore Avery's comfortable with, and right now the offense is capable of executing. And Houston just sat all over it all day. There were no windows for Avery to throw in. They didn't blitz. They just dropped 8 guys into coverage, and they sat in those windows and disrupted the timing, and were more than happy to allow Avery to face down a 3-man rush or a 4-man rush. And you know what I want to see when Avery's only being rushed by 4 guys and that first or second read doesn't pop open? I want to see the best athlete on the team run the ball.
I agree. I'm with you.
So I think some of this is on Avery. I don't know that it's scared to get hit, but I do think there is there's an element of how he is being coached right now that is making him less,
maybe not scared, but maybe trepidatious. Like there's some sort of block.
I think it's willingness. I think it's the unwillingness to run the ball. Just not wanting to do it because you want to make the right play, right?
Right.
Like if you're being coached to, hey, make the right play. This is a passing play. You got the 2 reads. You got 4 guys in routes. Make the right play. And I think Avery is a little too focused right now on, okay, it's a passing play. I got to throw the ball. And trying not to freelance.
And look, he's young. Like, you can understand some of those things, but I also think that and look, this is a lot of pressure to put on him, and I understand that. And that's why going into the year, I tried to temper my personal expectations because he's a kid. He's very young. He did not start any games except the bowl game, which is now just a glorified exhibition a year ago. He's still only, is he 20? Is he still only 19? He's very young.
I think he's 19.
He's not super experienced.
10th career start.
So I understand all of those things. And we had a comment from Vance on YouTube that says, let him get him, give him a chance to get his sea legs. And I understand all of that. But there is still a matter of, do you think you are a playoff team? The answer for Kansas State is unequivocally yes. And for a lot of K-State fans is unequivocally yes. Okay. You're the quarterback of that team. And fair or unfair, you got to go make plays. I mean, it's very similar. Look down the road. Okay, you thank God didn't play this week. But like, hey, Jalen Daniels is coming back from injury. I told you the whole first half of the season, I didn't think he was healthy. I did not think he was 100% healthy. But it doesn't matter. You got to go win. Like, oh, well, if he's banged up, if his back hurts, you got to win. Like, if you're put in that spot, you got to go win. And if you're put in that spot, you got to make the right call if you're Avery Johnson. And this game came down to K-State could not run the ball and made more mistakes than Houston made through the air. I mean, and I don't think K-State is going to win as much as it wants to win if Avery Johnson throws the ball 39 times.
No,
I just don't think that's going to happen.
Absolutely not. That's why the bigger concern for me in the short term, or what we've seen the last 3 weeks, is they can't get DJ Giddens going. Every run into the line is 2 yards. Like, those plays have to be 4 or 5 yards. You have to put the offense in position to be in 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3. You can't live in 3rd and 8. And right now they are super predictable. Laramie points that out in the YouTube live chat.
Yep.
They are super predictable.
Yep.
First down pass, incomplete. Second down, run it to the middle of the line, get 2 yards. Now you're in 3rd and 8.
Disgusting.
I hate the automatic run on 2nd and 10.
I do too.
It terrible. And they were unable to run the ball. They're just not getting any push right now. Now, this was an offensive line that for the first half of the season was terrific. And I do wonder if fatigue, maybe playing a bit of a role in that. And if on some fresher legs, they can get the running game back going. They need to diversify their concepts a little bit too. That's why a bye week.
It's too static.
Yeah. And that's why I think a bye week is good. And I think a lot of things can be addressed with the bye coming up. But that is my greater concern. Because the thing with Avery Johnson, people got to remember. Like, we got a text with 785. Avery's just okay. He's not exceptional. And they got to use the tight ends more. Laramie points out he was staring down his throws. He wasn't looking off defensive backs. development's not linear. Like
It's not.
when you've got a first-year starter at quarterback who is a sophomore, you are going to have games where it looks great, and you're going to have games where it doesn't look as great. Avery Johnson saw something that I'm going to wager he didn't see a whole lot of in his high school career from the Houston defense. I don't think he was facing a lot of three-man rushes. I don't think there were a lot of teams daring Avery to run the ball in high school. I don't think the AVCTL was going to live with Avery running the football. Houston appeared okay with letting Avery run the football, and he just didn't do it. And I don't know who to point the finger at here. So it's not really appropriate for me to point the finger at anybody.
Right.
But for whatever reason, that is a part of Avery Johnson's game that has not been actualized, that has not been fully realized, except for, you could say, the KU game when you ran the ball 16 times. So until we get like the full Avery Johnson experience, we're not going to get the best of Avery Johnson.
And that's unfortunate because I think he can be a great player. I really think he can be a great college football player, but if you're not using him, I mean, this is something Fitz has been talking about for a long time with us, right? I mean, all year long, that he is going to be at his best when you are using him. I mean, it doesn't even have to be 50-50, 60-40, anything like that, but when the legs are a real threat. I think there's two quick points I want to bring up here. One, I'm not trying to compare Avery Johnson to Will Howard. If I'm K-State, I'm thrilled with the quarterback I kept between those two. How many times in Will Howard's career do you think he's thrown 39 times?
Not many.
None this year at Ohio State for a Ryan Day offense, which even if Chip Kelly's calling the plays, you know they want to throw. They want to throw a lot.
And they've got they got the Avengers at wide receiver. Why wouldn't you want to throw as much as possible?
Last year, Will Howard threw the ball 39 plus times thrice. You know what happened in all three of those games?
They got beat.
L's. 4 times in the last 2 seasons, K-State has thrown the ball 39 or more times. K-State has lost all of them. Missouri, that game.
And yesterday they did it in a dishwasher.
Yeah, the Missouri game last year. Okay, that game was wild, chaotic. Okay, that's clearly not Will Howard's fault. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. They won one of them. He also threw 42 passes against UCF last year. Then you had the game against Texas. That was a disaster. Will was awful, and he had big numbers. He was not good.
Yeah, he had one
game.
good quarter to get him back in it. But yeah.
And then Iowa State, which they were behind the entire game. And that there is more, a game like that is more alarming to me than a game like Saturday where K-State kind of choked. And because they couldn't run, they couldn't put the game away. Iowa State, they trailed the entire time, and then they had to pass all game, and they lost by it. No, that did not work. It didn't help them at all because it couldn't stop anyone. So, again, I think these are all problems that can be fixed. I think they could all be things, but
yeah,
by the time the bye week's over, they could all be fixed. It's just a matter of young quarterback, first-time play caller, your other offensive coordinator in the mix, who's your quarterback's coach in Matt Wells. I don't know what his say in all of this is. First year with the program and with the quarterback. There's a lot in the process that has to be worked out. I do think the other point I wanted to bring up here, and our guy Jay Hawker on YouTube brings this up, and I think we understand where our friends, leans here in terms of fandom. But
sure,
KU rushed for 220 yards against Houston. Yeah, that's a concern to me. And like KU's got a really good run game. Devin Neal is a star. KU is one of the best offensive lines in the country. Quiet it's been kept. That offensive line has been amazing for most of the year. K-State's got a good offensive line. K-State's got 3 really good ball carriers.
They do.
One who is truly elite. One who still doesn't touch the ball enough in Dylan Edwards. I guess he had 8 carries in this game and 2 catches.
Dylan, to be fair, also kind of went bozo mode. He fumbled a kickoff and then tried to return a punt from the goal line, neither of which is going to endear you to your coaches or make them,
it is not.
Make them trust you.
So that is worrisome. I mean, 89 yards on 34 carries against that Houston defense is a credit to Willie Fritz's staff and team. And if
it were 1 week, you'd shrug it off.
Yeah,
it's 3 weeks now. Like Giddens, they couldn't get Giddens going against West Virginia. It didn't matter because Avery was great. They couldn't really get Giddens or Edwards going against KU except for 1 or 2 explosive plays.
Yeah,
didn't matter. They were able to pull that game out of the fire. They needed DJ Giddens to be good in that game to take pressure off of Avery Johnson, who was struggling early, to take game pressure off of K-State in that fourth quarter. If they had been able to run the ball effectively in the first 3 quarters, they win that game because they're not putting the ball in the air in a dishwasher. They're leaving it in the hands of DJ Giddens, but that's not working right now, and that's what they got to fix. And I have no doubt that given a bye week, they can get some things together. They can get on some fresher legs. They're at home where they've always played better under Chris Kleiman. They've always played much better at home. They're at home against Arizona State and Cincinnati. I think they can win both of those games. Farmageddon remains the game that will probably be the difference between whether or not they go to Arlington, and Arlington will be the game that is probably the difference in whether or not they go to the playoff or not. That's all still in play. Difference is now they need a little help from somebody playing against Colorado. And Colorado plays possibly 3 ghost ship football teams in their last 4 games because they got an Oklahoma State team that has quit. They got a Utah team whose coach is halfway to Cancun. And I don't know what it's going to look like for KU when they're out of bowl eligibility. Like, are they going to play with some pride down the stretch? Like, what is that game going to look like at Arrowhead in 3 weeks?
Well, I will tell you this much. I believe they will play with pride. Senior day.
Sure.
And look, every program's got that senior day where, like, wow, our entire team is leaving. And all of these, like, Devin Neal and maybe Jalen Daniels and Luke Grimm and Quentin like, all these dudes, Kobe Bryant, all these guys changed the trajectory of the program. This year has been a disappointment. It sucks, obviously. There's no denying that. But, like, those guys, I think, are going to play with pride. I believe that. Maybe naively, but I believe that. And I think KU's going to give them a ride. I also put a future on KU to win that game like 3 months ago before Colorado was good. So I'm kind of wish casting that one.
And look, Colorado could lose 3 of those 4 games and it wouldn't surprise me. Like, it really wouldn't. I still don't quite know what to make of them.
Dude, it is amazing that what looked like, oh my God, nightmare schedule for Colorado is now, oh my gosh, they are going to be favored to make it to the playoff at this point with this schedule.
I mean, their most likely outcome right now is probably, honestly, if you just go by, are they going to be favored in the rest of their games? Yeah.
Arlington. That's one thing that sucks, and Colorado creeping up from behind is tough, but it does suck that Iowa State gave you a gift. And you couldn't really take advantage of it.
And I want to mention the Iowa State game in this context, and I want to bring this comment up from viewer MPM in the YouTube live chat, and he says K-State very fortunate to have only 2 losses. And I don't say what I'm about to say to pick on you, MPM, because I think this was a common expression on K-State Twitter on Saturday night
and from KU Twitter.
Yes, also from KU Twitter. But here's the thing: you win a bunch of close games. And it's like a credit to you. It's a credit to your toughness. It's a credit to how mentally strong you are, your ability to make the play when you need to make it. And then you lose a close game, and all of a sudden it's, well, you were lucky to win all those other close ones. And to me, that's not how it works. Close games swing on silly stuff, unpredictable stuff all the time. Look at Texas Tech. Texas Tech, who beats Iowa State. They are 5-1 in 1-score games this year. Joey McGuire's first year, when they were surprisingly decent, they are great in 1-score games. Last year, they couldn't win a 1-score game to save their lives. So which is it? Is Joey McGuire a good coach because he wins all the close games? Or is he a moron like he looked last year because he loses all the close games?
Talk about high variance.
That's the nature of this sport. It's what makes it so exciting and so frustrating at times to follow, is like the vagaries of what happens in close games. K-State has gotten the rub of the green in close games for the better part of this season. That is a credit to them. They did not get the bounce. They did not make the play on Saturday. To me, that's all it means. And I think this bye week comes at a really good time. They get to be back home for the next 3 weeks. That's going to recharge their batteries, man. Those road trips, not like real, like necessarily close ones either. They had to go out to West Virginia. And 3 road games in a 4-game stretch is a tough stretch.
Fitz talked about it last week. You go from Colorado, then the next week you go east to West Virginia.
Right.
Hey, you come home, obviously practice, but like that's a toll on everyone's body.
Yeah. It does. It was a difficult stretch. And when I made my predictions for the season started, I said K-State would go 10-2, and I thought they would lose the game in that stretch. I really did. I thought they would go 3-1, given the difficulty of that ask for a college football team. I thought 3-1 was always likely in that spot. That's just the maximally frustrating way to get to 3-1, though, is to have 3-0 and a 19-10 lead in the fourth quarter with the ball and 12 minutes left in a monsoon. And then you do the only thing you can't do. And then you go ahead and do the only other thing you can't do, which was give up a splash play. And now you're in a bad spot for the playoff. You're in a bad spot for Arlington. You got to win out still. That doesn't change, but now you need a little bit of help. So that's where K-State sits. But I think you're going to see a different football team coming out of the bye week. And I wouldn't be surprised in the end if you see a different Avery Johnson come out of the bye week, too. We'll take a break here. We are overdue for one on this hour, 580 Sports Talk. We still got some Royals to get to. Talk a little hot stove baseball. So the Royals re-signed Michael Wacha yesterday afternoon. But first, what is wrong with you? That's coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk. It is our first What Is Wrong With You of the week, first full week of November. 2 new stories competing today. Now, I'm going to go first. Everybody wants to be the good guy with the gun.
Yeah.
This guy thought he was being the good guy with the gun, but he was shooting at the actual good guys with guns, i.e. the police. And we go to Stockton, California, San Joaquin Valley in California. Deputies were looking for the people who triggered an alarm around 1:25 a.m. at the Pick and Pull along Clark Drive. When they got to the business, deputies spotted 3 people and ran after them, heading west from the northeast perimeter of the property. The sheriff's office said when a nearby homeowner's security camera alerted him of activity, instead of calling 911, he called his grandson, who then armed himself with an AR-15 and rode off in a golf cart, thinking he was tracking the people that the deputies were chasing. When the grandson encountered the deputies, who followed their suspects to a Buddhist temple by the Pick and Pull, the sheriff's office said he fired 2 shots at the deputies before they could announce their presence.
That's not very Buddhist.
Forcing them to take cover. Deputies shouted commands at the grandson, who complied with them. The sheriff's office said they took him into custody. Sheriff's office learned one of the bullets hit a cement wall directly below where a deputy was monitoring for any additional people running away from the Pick and Pull. No deputies were hurt, thankfully. And the sheriff's office said, also thankfully, no deputies fired back at the grandson, who is facing charges including assault with a deadly weapon, possession of an assault weapon, possession of a high-capacity magazine, and possession of a silencer. So we got a lot of people who made bad decisions here. First of all, hey, Gramps. I get it. You got your home security. And my wife and I, we got cameras. We got a security camera outside the front of our house. You get a security notification at 1:30 in the morning. Probably spooks you a little bit. You might be concerned. That might not. I don't know anything about this neighborhood, but I know Stockton's kind of rough, just generally speaking. Like, maybe this isn't the first time there's been criminal activity outside this guy's house. I don't know, brother. Maybe call 911. Don't call your dumbass grandkid with an assault rifle.
Come on.
Jumps in a golf cart like, I'm going to help. I'm helping. No, you're not. No, you're not. There are actual good guys with guns. They are called the police.
Yeah.
Let them do their job.
Oh, my gosh.
What a moron. I can't get over how stupid this is. Everybody in the fantasy wants to be the good guy with a gun.
Yeah.
This story happening in the South was minus 50,000 at your favorite sports book.
Oh, yeah.
Can't believe this was in California. Spencer, what you got today?
Actually, I feel like California, you don't, maybe you do expect that in California.
Not rural California. But
Yeah.
like inland California, probably.
Stockton's rough.
Stockton, maybe.
Like Stockton, Ontario. Like there are some places, Barstow.
Yeah, if you told me this happened in Fresno, I would have said, okay, yeah.
Bakersfield.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the opposite side of the United States. We're going to Port St. Lucie, Florida.
We're back home.
Yes. A 39-year-old man threatened a state trooper at a local Wawa Sunday morning, saying he, quote, better back up because he has a gun and a bomb, end quote. Port St. Lucie police told us, the news outlet, that being WPBF in Port St. Lucie area, that they received a call around 6:40 on Sunday morning regarding a man driving a black Jeep on I-95 claiming to have a gun and needing gas. The driver, Jeremy Wooster, exited the highway and ended up at the racetrack on Gatlin Boulevard, where he came face to face with a Florida Highway Patrol state trooper. According to police, Wooster looked at the state trooper, stated he had a gun and a bomb, and that trooper better back up. Port St. Lucie police arrived at the scene. Wooster drove off to the Wawa off Tradition Parkway. Wooster crashed into both officers and troopers that attempted to block him in. Authorities were able to immobilize the vehicle, and Wooster was taken into custody by SWAT officers. No injuries were reported. No other people were occupying the vehicle. A search did not reveal any explosives or weapons in Wooster's car.
So he was a liar.
He's been arrested and charged with the following: aggravated assault, aggravated battery, felony criminal mischiefs, fleeing and eluding, false report, concealing a planted bomb, and an explosive or a weapon of mass destruction, or concerning the use of firearms in a violent manner, and grand theft auto.
Reminds me of the people who tried to rob the Walmart and didn't have a real gun. They just said they did.
Yeah.
It's like, I got a gun. I promise.
Yeah, you're gonna take my word for it.
You better back up. I have this.
That's funny.
That's
a
wild.
good story.
Yeah.
I think that one would win most days. I gotta go with the dumbass grandson today, though.
Vance in the YouTube chat calls him the gung-ho grandson. Yeah, it went a little too hard.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Man, call 911. Why is your first thought, there are some hoodlums about. I've captured them on my security camera. I can see they're up to no good. Let me call my grandson Braden. He's got a gun. He'll take care of it.
Kylan, please.
Hello, Draxton? Are you awake? Playing Call of Duty, drinking Mountain Dew, I hope.
I'm going to need you out here. I'm going to need your assistance.
They got a code for it.
We got a 1013 happening in front of my house. I need your assistance.
Brexar, we have a code 7.
Brexar.
2 X's. The second X is silent.
Mason with a Y. I need you here now.
Make sure you bring your biggest gun.
Yeah, this one's going to win today.
Yeah, go with this one.
Oh, my gosh.
That's what is wrong with you for this Monday, November 4th. We'll take a break, come back. We're going to talk some baseball because the Royals are dropping bags, and Michael Wacha's coming back. We'll talk about it next on 580 Sports Talk. .444 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Brendan, Spencer with you. Thanks for being with us on this Monday afternoon. Kansas City Royals made some news yesterday. There's the 5-day window in the offseason, the very beginning of the Major League Baseball offseason, where teams can negotiate exclusively with their own free agents.
Can't buy those at Pella.
And in the process of that, they got a deal done with Michael Wacha. The 32-year-old right-hander is 33 years old now. Coming back to KC, a 3-year, $51 million deal with a team option for a 4th year. I want to make sure that get all of the details about this correct. I don't know if the Royals have put out an official press release on it, but it's 2 years, $18 million each. So 2 years, $36 million for the next 2 years, 2025, 2026. At least $14 million in 2027, with another $4 million available in incentive bonuses. The club option for 2028 is for $14 million. It contains a $1 million buyout. So the guarantee is $51 million for 3 years. So that is, you do the back of the napkin math on that. That is, I'm not very good at back of the napkin subtraction. $17 million a year.
Nicely done.
He made $16 million last year. Hard to say he wasn't worth it. Went 13-8 with a 3.35 ERA. Made 29 starts. most starts he'd made in a season since 2017. We're now going on 3 consecutive years where he's made at least 23 starts for a contender and been really solid. And the Royals decided to pony up and pay the premium to keep a solid mid-rotation starter on their roster. That is the going rate, and the Royals were glad to pay it, even if it means, there are some teams that would look at that and say, oh, man, I don't know, $14 million for a guy in his age 36 season or his age 35 season? I don't know how I feel about that. The Royals said, hell with that. We're good now. We want to be good next year. And you know who helps make us good next year? Michael Wacha.
He's also not the kind of guy who relies on 102 to win. I think this is a pitching profile that will help him have some longevity.
It should age pretty well if he stays healthy. Yeah.
I thought when we talked about this a couple weeks ago, when we did our postmortem for the Royals season, I thought that maybe a 1-1 would make sense for Wacha. A 2-year deal, but the second year is maybe a mutual option.
Which is essentially what he signed last year.
Yeah. And I think, I would have been happy with that. I think going rate longer term for him makes a lot of sense. And what I posited at the time was maybe he wants to stay in Kansas City if the Royals want to bring him back. This is a guy who from 2019 through 2024, in a span of 6 seasons, played for 6 different teams.
Yeah.
Cardinals, Mets, Rays, Red Sox, Padres, Royals. That's a lot of moving around. That's not a lot of consistency. He's been good pretty much that entire time. He was iffy with the Rays in 2021. But other than that, he's been a good pitcher. And look, dude is in his mid-30s, made a ton of money, had kids, and wants to retire to Overland Park. Who among us?
He's from Iowa City. He grew up in Texas. The Midwest thing is very much his vibe.
Again, Overland Park native, or moving to Overland Park. We all know those people. No, I love this move for the Royals, though.
I think it makes sense both sides.
Yeah, it's fine. You get the 4th-year option, which I'm going to guess is not going to be picked up when we get to that point. But I don't know how you could be upset about this. I think this is a really prudent move by the Royals.
So I think, too, I want to tag onto this. I've been seeing that people had been linking him to, or the Guardians to him as a team that maybe wanted his services if he hit the free agent market. You never want to let one of your guys who's very good hit the streets and go to your division rival.
Yeah, it accomplishes a lot for the Royals. The biggest thing is that you keep your 2024 starting pitching rotation intact. All 5 of those guys now, Lugo, Reagan, Singer, Wacha, Marsh. It was in that order for the better, Reagan's, Lugo, Singer, Wacha, Marsh for the better part of the entire season. It's all back. It's all coming back next year. And what it does then is now you are less reliant on turning to either Chris Bubich or Daniel Lynch and saying, hey, we need one of you back in the starting rotation next year. Or turning to Kyle Wright, who now is a luxury piece, instead of, hey, we need you to be that 21-game winner you were 2 years ago, after which your shoulder turned into linguine. We need that. We need you to at least be some semblance of that. Now, that's a luxury if you get that. If that's starting pitcher 6, that's great. And now you can keep Bubich and Lynch in the bullpen, at least initially, where they thrived last year, and start to build a bullpen around that. Flip side, something else you can also do. And I know that this has been suggested out there by some smart Royals fans out there on the internet. What if there's a trade that you could make with a guy like Alec Marsh or a guy like Brady Singer to go get a bat? Because it's going to be hard to go and, in the free agent market, add 2 impact bats. I think the Royals have it in them to go get 1.
Yeah, I agree.
But they need 2. Maybe it's a little easier to get that second if you make a deal. If you maybe they used to call them challenge trades. When you have a player who is useful to you and another team has a player who would be useful to you, and you swap them.
My question is, what do you get for Alec Marsh?
It would have to be Marsh plus.
Yeah.
But Alec Marsh has what now? How much team control? He's not a free agent until 2030. So 5 years of team control as a starting pitcher.
Forever.
I think that'd be pretty valuable. A guy struck out close to a batter per inning last year. I think Alec Marsh would fetch a good young bat. I really do. I think you could get something useful for Alex Marsh.
Do you think that maybe if they do that, maybe they see what Lorenzen could get on the open market? If he doesn't like what he gets, maybe you try to bring him back.
I wouldn't be opposed to a reuniting with Lorenzen because the Royals clearly saw something with him that they felt like they could improve, and they did improve it.
Yeah.
He was pitching very well with a different pitch mix that the Royals were essentially suggesting to him, and he was finding success with it. And then he got hurt, which was unfortunate. But I could see Lorenzen deciding that it's in his best interest to go back to an organization that got some really good work out of him, even in a short time frame.
And I think that's going to wait. I think he's obviously wants to see what he can get in the open market.
And I would too.
And anybody would.
That's the smart thing to do. You know what's helpful though, and I think Jeff Passan had this in his story about the Wacha re-signing. You know what also helps? That middle infield defense. That defense in general that the Royals have. Having Bobby Witt Jr. at shortstop, Michael Garcia somewhere on the field,
Gold
Kyle Isbell in center.
Bobby Witt Jr. to you. First time Gold Glover.
Rightfully so. I mean, those are things that also make it much more attractive for any pitcher like that who's not going to overpower guys. Hey, there's going to be a lot of contact against me. And I got that dude at short. Michael Garcia is going to be somewhere. He's a good fielder. Vinny is fine at first base. I got Kyle Isbell probably patrolling center field. Now, if you could upgrade him, that'd be great. But he's good enough. He's your 9-hole hitter and a good center field glove. You will take that. Maybe I won't have to have MJ Melendez in a corner. That would be nice. Like that's a pretty favorable spot for a contact pitcher.
One last point I want to make real quick. We had a text on the Top City Mail Supply text line from 785 that says, at least this shows the Royals are serious about staying competitive. Yes. I do think we are entering an era where the Royals have finally looked at who their competition is in the American League Central and decided there's no reason we can't be the Guardians. There's no reason we can't be the Twins. Both of those organizations do not spend like the Yankees or the Mets, but there's no Yankees or there's no Astros, there's no Rangers in the American League Central. Nobody's spending buku bucks. All you have to do is be smart and be willing to spend in free agency in ways that those other franchises are not. I love how aggressive the Royals are being. I think what it shows you at the Royals are not going to be a team that says, you know what, if we win 54% of our games, hi, Jerry DiPoto, 54% of our games over a 10-year stretch, that'd be nice. Or that if we go to the playoffs twice every 10 years, that would be nice. Hi, Dick Monfort. No, the Royals want to be back next year. And they've shown you, I think, if you're a Royals fan, you got to be really encouraged by what they've shown you. It's a statement of intent to get this done with Michael Wacha. We'll take a time out. We come back. We'll wrap up this 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk next. Updating our Prairie Band Sportsbook 580 Sports Talk Picks contest. We finally had somebody post a winning week this week. Shout out to Brendan.
All it took was my favorite team and my whole personality getting destroyed in front of me for 3 hours.
That's unfortunate. Spencer 2-3. Bad beat on the Marshall ULM game.
Yes, so
to
close.
Cost
So
you a winning
close.
week. My lock of the week hit. I told you Diego Pavia was going to continue to torment Hugh Freeze.
It was his closest win yet.
Yes, 3-0. I hope he gets to be all-time QB against a Hugh Freeze team once a year for eternity. Unfortunately, that was my only win for this week. I went 1-4. So I maintained my lead, but tough week for me. We got headlines. We got NFL Week 9. We got final Chiefs thoughts coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 3 on this Red Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Final hour of the program today before we hand it off to coverage from the Chiefs Radio Network. The only unbeaten in the NFL, trying to make it 8-0 on Monday Night Football tonight as the Chiefs play host to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Coverage starting again at 6 o'clock, right when we get off the air here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski running the two-man game the rest of the way. Spencer Dupuis off for the rest of the day. Thank you for joining us here on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our live video stream. A welcome to those of you watching on YouTube, the YouTube channel 580 Sports Talk. Thanks for watching live. Jump into the live chat. If you've never been on the live chat, if you haven't, you see that box and you see us interacting with fellow listeners and you've never interacted with us or your fellow listeners, come on in. The water's fine. Let us know you're out there and let us know where you're watching from, where you're enjoying the show from today. If you're in that YouTube live chat, you can also watch us on Facebook, WIBW News. You can text the program. The Top City Metal Supply text line is open for all. 785-272-9429 is that phone number. Coming up in this final hour of the show, we got some final thoughts on Chiefs Bucks tonight. How much is the weather going to play a factor? Hopefully, the weather moves out largely of greater Kansas City by the time of kickoff, but I wouldn't necessarily bet on that being the case.
My official meteorological take on this weather, it's buns.
Yeah, I'm
It sucks.
not loving the fact that it feels like we moved to Portland over the weekend.
Just rain all the time. I didn't have a good, bad, and ugly today because I was not here for the opening hour of the show. I was conducting some business. The Washburn game on Saturday was interminable. We had 2 lightning delays. One of them, thankfully, just swallowed halftime, which was fine. The other one lasted over an hour with 1:14 left in the game.
Oof.
It was rough. And then, unfortunately, the Bods also lost. But yeah, the long wait, that was a killer. I'm done with the storms. I'm done with the rain.
No, I don't blame you. We'll talk about that. We'll also get to some reaction on NFL Week 9. Brendan has the tranquilizer darts ready if we get to Seahawks Rams. Kind of hope for everyone's sake that we don't.
Dude, what the hell?
But it was also only one of the only good games this weekend. So we probably
weird week of games.
Yeah, not a great week of games. Got lots of headlines as well to get to here on this hour of the program. But again, thank you for being with us on 580 Sports Talk. Vance in the YouTube live comments would like us to mention the podcast info. Well, I'm glad you asked, Vance. You can find the podcast, an hour-by-hour breakdown of the show. If you just want to listen to us, you don't want to look at our ugly mugs, and you just want to listen. I understand.
Yeah, I'm hideous.
I'm slightly offended, but I think I'm very handsome. I'm a little offended, but I understand at the end of the day. If you don't want to look at us, you just want to listen. And there's 2 ways you can listen to the show. You can go onto your web browser, online, 580WIBW.com. There's a podcast tab at the top. Click 580 Sports Talk, and you can listen to hour-by-hour breakdowns of the show. Or if you'd like to take us with you on the go a little easier on, I believe it is America's #1 streaming music and podcast app, we are on Spotify. So search for 580 Sports Talk on Spotify, and you can listen to the show on the same app where you stream a bar song by Shabuzi 15 times a day.
If Spotify officially overtook Apple Podcasts in terms of monthly podcast listeners in 2022.
How about that?
Yeah.
So we're on Spotify, and you search 580 Sports Talk on Spotify, and you can find us and listen to us on that particular app. And we appreciate those of you who have found us. If you listen to us over there, the only request that we have is that you leave us a review, and a nice review.
Yeah.
Give us 5 stars.
If you, I learned this trick recently. If you also leave a review, leave a question in your review. Leave us a mailbag question. We'll get to it on the show.
There you go.
Yeah. Leave us. So go to Spotify, leave us a 5-star, and then ask us a question. We'll get to it on the show.
Love that. Yeah. So that's how you can listen to the podcast version of 580 Sports Talk. Of course, all of our video content is archived on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, so you can watch it there. And I believe we are also archived on our Facebook page, WIBW News, so you can watch us there as well. So let's get into these 580 Sports Talk headlines because, boy, we have a lot of them today. Where do we begin? Let's do college football. We'll start with the AP and USLBM coaches polls, both of whom have Oregon as the number one team in the country. They are the undisputed number one team in the latest AP Top 25 after they dismantled Michigan at the Big House on Saturday. The unbeaten Ducks getting all 62 first-place votes. They have 53 of the 54 first-place votes in the coaches poll. Georgia still receiving a first-place vote. Georgia, Ohio State, Miami, and Texas, 2 through 5. So the top 5 are the same, according to both the AP and the coaches poll. Highest ranked team in both polls out of the Big 12 remains number 9, BYU, who was off. They stay number 9 in the AP poll. They went up 3 spots in the coaches poll. They must have had a really good bye week. Must have looked great in practice, I suppose. K-State falls 5 spots to number 22 in the AP Top 25. They dropped 6 spots, number 21 in the coaches poll this week. Other Big 12 teams ranked. Iowa State also plummeting after their loss to Texas Tech. They dropped 6 spots to 17 in the AP poll. They dropped 8 spots to number 18 in the coaches poll. Colorado jumps Kansas State in the AP poll. I wonder if there's a way that we could tell who was better between Colorado and Kansas State. Maybe if they played a game. If they played a game against each other, and then maybe we would know which one was actually the better team. But I guess we'll never know. Anyway, Colorado's ranked 21st, up 2 spots, 1 spot ahead of Kansas State. Colorado is 24th in the coaches poll. They are into the poll for the first time. Vanderbilt and Louisville, newly ranked by the AP. Colorado and Vanderbilt are the new teams into the top 25 in the coaches poll. Another college football headline, the transfer portal's already hopping. Remember, there were players that were jumping in after 3 or 4 games to preserve their eligibility and to just get in the transfer portal, most notably UNLV quarterback Matthew Sluka. He was the one that got all the headlines, but there were a handful of players across the country who, after 3-4 games of their team season, decided, hey, I'm going to keep my eligibility. I'm going to keep this as a redshirt year. I'm going to get in the portal. This isn't a good situation for me. I'm going to find another place to play. One of those players, linebacker Bengali Kamara, who has previously played at Pitt and was on the team at South Carolina before he entered the portal this season. He is committed to play for Lance Leipold and the Kansas Jayhawks. So that is the first of the high-profile transfer portal decisions for 2025, and it's been made on November 4th of 2024.
Yeah, there's some other big-name programs who are going after Kamara. He also is a grad transfer, which makes things a little bit easier. Even with the easier, looser portal rules these days, grad transfers still have different rules and can commit and enter the portal at different times. His was not originally announced publicly. It was just kind of, hey, be on the lookout for this. And then it turns out, no, he already is out there in the portal. This is a good get for KU. Needs linebacker help for next year desperately. I believe, and maybe Michael Swain can correct me on this when we talk to him tomorrow, I believe Cornell Wheeler has another year. His true freshman season when he was at Michigan, was it? He did not play. So he redshirted that year. 2021 was a free season for everybody, and he has played 22, 23, 24. So I believe he's got a 6th season. Now, I don't know if he wants to come back. I don't know if he will come back, but if he does, you suddenly have a very athletic and very old linebacker room for next year, which I think KU needs both of, to be completely frank with you. So this is a good addition.
So those are your college football headlines for today. That's where we get started here on our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Brendan, what's your first one today?
Why don't we just jump into college basketball from that point, shall we? We have one score locally from earlier today, 13th ranked Kansas State. They hammered Green Bay, the Phoenix, 92-45. They led by as many as 49 points in the game. Jalen Glenn with 17. Kennedy Taylor had 16 and 11 for a double-double. Aoka Lee only played 10 minutes. She suffered an ankle injury in the first half. She, from what I'm kind of reading between the lines here, if K-State had really needed her, she probably could have played more.
Yeah.
But K-State also led in this game by as many as 49 points.
Correct.
And really did not need her to beat Green Bay, which is probably going to be a pretty decent team. They were picked second in the Horizon, and they got several first-place votes this year in that conference. But big, easy win for Kansas State women's basketball today. The K-State men will open their season coming up tomorrow night. Meanwhile, from Lawrence, KU begins the season tonight. The number one team in the land takes on Howard, a team who, Dan, we saw KU take on and beat at the NCAA tournament just 2 seasons ago in Des Moines.
That's right.
KU won pretty easily in that game.
I wonder if Bing Rames' son is still on the roster there.
I think we looked. I don't know that he is. I'm going to check on that. But it will be Howard, who, for what it's worth, is a pretty darn good HBCU program, is year over year. And they are once again picked to win the MEAC conference. So something significant. It's not the worst. There's no Rames on the roster currently, by the way. Unfortunately, I think he graduated. But yes, this is the way you want to open the season if you're KU. I have not checked the spread. I imagine KU is favored by somewhere close to a zillion. That's my official guess here. Jayhawks, what is one thing you are going to be watching for tonight in this game? I assume this will be on the second screen.
Yeah, we'll get this one up on the second screen tonight. Honestly, I'm curious how the guard rotation shakes out in a real game. Like, what do the minutes look like for Griffin? What do they look like for Mayo coming off the bench? Are there minutes for David Coit? I mean, there should be, even if they are just garbage time minutes. This is a game Kansas should win fairly easily. But just curious how he's going to deploy his guards and who plays together, who handles the ball, that kind of thing.
Yeah, for me, there's a couple. I just want to see all the Ryland Griffin. I want 40 minutes of Ryland Griffin. I know he can't play that much, but I am so excited about him. Number 6 for KU, David Coit. I think that's very interesting. What is he able to give you against a better opponent? Not to criticize Washburn by any means. I'd actually love to see Washburn versus Howard, to be honest with you, this year. But he was obviously on fire in that game. What can he do against a D1 opponent? Also, AJ Storr. I know he's not playing with a lot of confidence right now, but man, if you can't play with confidence in your exhibition and against Howard, my worries are well founded. I have some concerns there. You have to know if you're transferring to Kansas, you got to rebound and play defense. Like, I know he just wants to score. I know he just wants to go put the ball in the hoop. I understand that. You got to do something on the defensive end. Even Svi Mikhailuk learned to play a little bit of defense over the course of his time. He could rebound a little bit. You got to be able to do that if you're AJ Storr. So I want to see him assert himself tonight. By the way, your spread for this game, KU favored by 26.5. I am going to take the Jayhawks.
Yeah, I think they cover that.
I'm taking KU to cover. Also from KU basketball news over the weekend, this was actually on Friday night. Darren Peterson is the newest member of the KU recruiting class. He is one of the top guards in the country.
Look, I know his mama named him Darren Peterson, but when you've got a nickname as good as Bucket Jones, why do we call him anything else?
I want to know where this came from. I'm sure somebody at his first media day will ask him, where did Bucket Jones come from?
I get bucket as like basketball terminology.
Of
like
course.
the kid's a bucket. Kid's a walking bucket. Bucket Jones? Like, is it like a basketball Jones kind of thing? Like, is he jonesing for some buckets? Has he got a Bucket Jones?
I don't know.
In that way? Is that what we're dealing with? Is it that kind of thing? I don't know. All I know is I'm going to call him Bucket Jones.
If you were going to refer to someone with a made-up last name, is Jones the name you would go with? Like, oh, here comes David, who loves to bring his lunch to work. He's Brown Bag Jones.
Yeah,
like, is Jones the name you would use?
I think Jones might be the name I use.
I've always been McGee.
Yeah, McGee. That may be along racial lines, if we're being honest.
McGee? Oh, okay.
Yes.
I see what you're saying.
Yes, it may be McGee for a white guy, Jones for a non-white guy.
When I was in college and I had a group of friends who lived in my dorm, shout out to Oliver, floor 4, RIP. Every time someone would drop a pass, would drop the football, we called him Hands McGee, and we all thought it was really funny, so I just kind of stuck with it. So yeah, that would be the built-in one. So Darren Peterson, let's get back to the actual player here. Number 3 overall player in the class. He's the highest ranked guard in the class, according to 24/7 Sports, prepping at Prolific Prep Academy in Napa, California. The only players who are ahead of him, Cameron Boozer, who's committed to Duke. Not a surprise.
That is Carlos Boozer's son, by the way.
Yeah.
If you want to feel old today.
Yeah, that's hard to believe. I remember when Carlos Boozer was the consolation prize for the Bulls not getting LeBron. That was something. And number 1 is AJ Dibansa, who I think is going to go to BYU, which is crazy.
Here's the thing. So K-State was involved in the Bucket Jones process. Like
Yes.
they were one of his final four. There was a really good relationship with Bucket Jones and KU. I'm really committed to the bit at this point.
Steer into it.
He's an Adidas player.
Yes.
Obviously, KU's an Adidas school, so there was a
Yes.
relationship there that was hard for some of the other schools to really overcome. And KU won out.
If Adidas had not made that one work, there were going to have to be some conversations in Lawrence.
Look, Bill Self wants real guys, and he's not afraid to say it. Anyhow, now that Bucket Jones is out of the picture for K-State, I am hearing that they are redoubling their NIL efforts for AJ Dibanza in such a way that has them back in the picture a little bit, because it has long been assumed he's going to get like $3 to $5 million from BYU, and that they've made him their number one target. And so, yes, like a lot of people think he's going to BYU, but don't be surprised if K-State's still a major player in that one. Don't be surprised they're back in the game with some of those NIL resources that maybe were earmarked for Bucket Jones now being earmarked for AJ Dibanza. That is.
I mean, they should.
That is my ear to the street.
Dibanza looks good. I mean,
Yes.
he looks like he is going to be a pretty special kind of player.
He would be the best. He would be the best player K-State had signed since Michael Beasley.
Yes, and I don't think there's any argument.
Yes,
at all.
Yeah.
Who is the richest K-State booster? I'm sorry.
I always assume it's the Ice family.
NIL contributor.
I just assume it's the Ice.
I would figure so. BYU has the backing of Ryan Smith, who owns the Jazz
and the Utah Hockey Club.
He's refurbished that arena in Salt Lake City. It's the Delta Center again, isn't it?
Yes, it's the Delta Center again.
After having been Vivint Smart Home Arena for a little bit there. He has several $1 billion at his disposal. And from everything I've read, and this isn't just about Dibanza, this is about basketball, this is about football, this is about everything. He is very excited to spend on potential athletes to come to BYU.
Oh, yeah.
And they've got the NBA connection with their new head coach as well for basketball.
They also have the backing of the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints.
Yes, they do.
Not insignificant.
Unlike the special teams coordinator at Colorado, they actually have that backing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. My official prediction doesn't carry a lot of weight. I do think he will end up at BYU. I will say this, though. A bidding war for the best player in the country in the recruiting class between BYU and Kansas State is actually so good. That's great.
Yes.
I love that.
That is extremely good for college basketball.
I hope that is exactly what happens. But yes, Darren Peterson, he is a Jayhawk number 3 player in the class. Big get for KU. A lot of people around basketball really like his game. So that's a good get.
It is, of course, the first day of the college basketball season. There have been games taking place all over, and some of those games are between schools that you've heard of and schools you've extremely not heard of. Brendan, would you like to play a game?
Oh, hold on. Yes, I do. I got to pull up our game show music. Hold
okay. We're going to play a game, you and I.
Good.
We're going to play a quick game. And this game is real school or fake school. Let's play of our not sponsor.
Anyway, here's more from Mando. All right, Dan, would you like to introduce the name of our game?
Let's play real school or fake school. It's a very simple game. I am looking at tonight's men's college basketball schedule, and I am going to ask Brendan if this is a real school or a fake school. School number 1, Alice Lloyd College.
I know that's a real school. I know that for a fact.
Alice Lloyd College.
It's in the mountains somewhere.
Is, in fact, a real school. It is in Pippa Passes, Kentucky.
Yeah. I would like to add some very important context to this. Dan and I used to have office space right next to each other. Back in the cubicle days, we used to sit next to each other. We did that for many years. You truly would not believe the number of times we would spend an entire 2-hour afternoon just reading off these seemingly fake colleges to each other and laughing.
Remember the one time a school was playing a cop school?
Yes, Blue Lights College. It's literally cop school. They beat the North Carolina JV team.
It's literally the police academy. Anyway, yeah, Alice Lloyd is a real college. They're playing Eastern Kentucky tonight at 6 p.m. Next up on Real School or Fake School, David Peace.
David Peace. No, I'm going to guess the real school is David War.
No, the real school is William Peace University. They're in Raleigh, North Carolina. David Peace is a British author who wrote The Damned United, which is a great movie. Michael Sheen's in it. Really good.
Okay.
Anyway, William Peace, real school. David Peace, fake school. William Peace is playing Davidson tonight.
On.
Next up on Real School or Fake School, John Jones.
John Jones. Man. No, I'm going to say fake, and I'm going to say the real school is Bob Jones.
The real school is Bob Jones.
Yeah!
Extremely religious school in Greenville, South Carolina. Maybe the most conservative Christian university in the nation. They are playing Western Carolina tonight.
There's a
John Jones was a UFC world champion.
there's a great story about former President Bush, W. Bush, visiting Bob Jones College and asking why certain groups of students weren't intermingling. And anyway, you can go look that up yourself, but it's very funny.
Next up on Real School or Fake School, Paul Quinn.
That's the Hair Academy.
No, that's Paul Mitchell.
Damn it.
No.
That is a real school, though, right?
Paul Quinn is a real school, historically black Methodist college in Dallas, Texas. Paul Quinn is at Lamar tonight.
Okay, all right. HBCU in Texas, not the hair care people. Okay. Man, I was confident in that one.
All right. Next up, William Carey.
William Carey. I know William Woods is real.
William Woods is real.
I know
who I'm asking.
Danny Carey is the drummer for Tool, big KU fan.
Harry Carey was the voice of the Cubs and the White Sox and the Cardinals for many years.
I will say fake school.
William Carey is a real school.
No!
They are a private Christian university in Mississippi,
Oh.
Hattiesburg, to be precise. Tonight, the whatevers of William Carey are playing Southeast Louisiana.
William Carey, their team name, I bet it's dumb. Oh, they're just the Crusaders. That's fine.
And last on Real School or Fake School, Colonel Jessup University.
That's got to be real.
Half credit. Colonel Jessup is, of course, Jack Nicholson's character in A Few Good Men. Jessup University is a private Christian university in Rockland, California, and tonight they take on Pacific. Not to be confused with Life Pacific, who is playing Loyola Marymount tonight. Not to be confused with Pacific Life, which is the insurance company with the commercial with the whale slapping the water. I love that commercial.
That's a great commercial.
This has been Real School or Fake School. Brendan wins a copy of the home game.
We're going to have to pull that clip of Paul Mitchell. Paul Quinn.
Oh, Mitch, oh my God. I think I had hairspray back when I was spiking my dyed blonde hair in 2000. I think I had Paul Mitchell hairspray.
There's a great video. It's got to be nearly 20 years old now from the Onion Sports Network, where they talk about expanding the NCAA tournament to 4,096 teams. And they talk about the Xenon Barber Academy not being able to get into the tournament because they didn't file their paperwork on time.
Xenon.
Or no, that's a different school. They mentioned a school in Emporia that's fake that they couldn't get in on time. They mentioned the Xenon Barber Academy. Their best player graduated to become a barber. That's the bit. Great video, though. I recommend it. It's on YouTube.
We'll take a timeout. When we come back, week number 9 in the NFL, we'll discuss next on 580 Sports Talk. 8:34 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan and Brendan taking you home for another 26 minutes. Then we'll give way to Chiefs football. It's already dark outside. This sucks.
Yeah, it's crap.
Hate it so much. Daylight saving is nonsense.
Did you enjoy your extra hour of sleep?
I would have loved to. My son did not understand the concept of daylight savings, and was a little fussy about it. I told him, "Hey, man, you get an extra hour of sleep," and he did not respond because he is 5 months old. And so yeah, there was no extra hour of sleep in the Lucero household. And then the next night, he was all messed up.
Yeah, I believe that.
Like this morning, he woke up at like 3:45. He was just I think he was just confused. Like, what's going on?
What the hell's happening here?
What is the deal? So no extra sleep for me on the daylight savings, which is tough. First day of college basketball season. We mentioned that. Hold that thought, if you will, for a little bit while we get to a little NFL week number 9. We talked about this with Nat Verderame at the top of, or at the bottom of the 3:00 hour. You can catch that on our archive on our podcast, or rewind on the YouTube video. The Detroit Lions lost, I think, their best player 3 weeks ago, Aiden Hutchinson, 4 weeks ago. And they look awesome since he's gone out. I was worried that they might just not have enough dudes, but they look like they might not just be the best team in the NFC. They're the only team I want to put in a conversation right now with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I think the best team I think they are right now playing better than anybody else in the NFL. And I'm not trying to gas up the Packers. Green Bay did more than enough to kill itself in that game yesterday.
Jordan Love, at least once a week, throws the funniest interception you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Not funny to you, probably.
Well, no, not very funny to me. He also is clearly not right. But he's done that twice now, that weird running to the side, rolling out, throwing to seemingly nobody but the defense thing. He did it against the Rams earlier this year. At least the Packers won that game. I knew they were going to lose this game to the Lions. I mean, I put it in our show picks for this week, our Prairie Band Sportsbook football picks. Disappointed with how that game went. But yeah, man, I mean, this Lions team is just great. I mean, Jared Goff has been phenomenal. They don't need a lot from him right now, but even when they've asked a lot of him, he's been good. They've got the best running back room in the NFL, a top 3 offensive line, if not top 1 offensive line. Their defense is not generating a ton of pressure at the moment, but like Aleem McNeil's a good player. DJ Reader's a good player up front. They're actually better now on the interior than they are on the edge with Aiden Hutchinson not playing. Brian Branch got thrown out of the game. By the way, for what it's worth, that was very much the correct call.
I thought so too.
He was running face up, and then as soon as he got in Bo Melton's face, he put the crown of his helmet into his jaw. Like, yeah, dude, that is absolutely not legal. And he didn't help himself, having a temper tantrum afterward. But they lost him, who I think is their next best defensive player. It didn't really matter. Again, Green Bay had a drop problem, which isn't really a credit to the Lions, but they're really good. I told a buddy of mine, the most homer take I can come away from that game with for Green Bay, I think Detroit showed the Packers a lot of respect by just sitting on the ball in the fourth quarter, because they thought if we turn the ball over here or do something too risky and it fails, Green Bay can score really quickly and make this a game, and we don't want that to happen. Like that. That's the nicest thing I can say about my team after that game, is they can score quickly, and the Lions showed that some respect, because they were the better team for 60 minutes. And they're the best team in the league right now. And if you put that is the Super Bowl we should want. And if you told someone 10 years ago the ultimate Super Bowl matchup we could get is Kansas City Chiefs versus Detroit Lions, they would tell you, wow, the future sucks. 30 NFL teams all died.
It's wild, right?
Yeah, but it's true. Like, that is the matchup we should be rooting for as football fans.
Elsewhere in the NFL, the Saints finally canned Dennis Allen. They lost their 7th straight game in a row. They lost to the Panthers. It was obvious as that game ended that there was no surviving it for Dennis Allen. He becomes that rare breed of NFL coach to be fired mid-season twice. Oakland threw him out after 2.5 years back in 2014, and now New Orleans does it as well. Dennis Allen's career record as a head coach is 26-53, but also he has the personality of a block of cream cheese. I didn't understand it when they hired him. I didn't understand it when they let him keep coaching after year 1. I really didn't understand it when they let him keep coaching into this year. And now the Saints move on. Matt Verderame described them as basically being like an expansion team
Yep.
for the next few years.
Mhm.
They are, I think they have the worst near-term future of any of the 32 NFL teams.
Yes, agreed.
They are a hot mess.
100% agreed. They have no money, no cap space. They're going to have to add more void years to Cam Jordan's contract just to be cap compliant. They're probably going to have to add a year or two to Derek Carr's contract to get cap compliant. But now I will say this. I think it is very important to remember this for Dennis Allen, the least inspiring coach of all time, that he does at least finish his career as the only ever loser of the Cottonelle Doo-Doo Bowl. Did you see Colin Saunders' tweets yesterday? Former Chief Colin Saunders apologized to Saints fans. I mean, he was on one. He said all he cares about at this point, Saints fans, is that they get to at least 500 and shoot. They might as well put him at quarterback, so at least there's something fun to watch.
I did see him say
that if this was a college bowl game yesterday against the Panthers, it would be the Cottonelle Doo-Doo Bowl, and that the Saints lost the Cottonelle Doo-Doo Bowl, which is so uproariously funny. I can't believe it.
Again, this is current New Orleans Saint Colin Saunders saying this.
Cam Jordan was like, wow, we lost to the Panthers. We suck.
Yeah, it was very funny.
Chris Olave got concussed again. Horrible.
Yeah, we talked about Michael Thomas having a good time.
Yeah. No, that's the right now as it stands in terms of ability to actually A, win something meaningful, and B, be enjoyable to your fans. The Saints are 32 out of 32. At least if you're a Panthers fan, you A, beat a rival, and B, if Bryce Young ever throws a ball more than 15 yards, you go, hey, that's cool. The Saints don't even have that.
No. The Saints are a mess. The Dallas Cowboys are a mess. And
they suck.
Dak Prescott's out now for several weeks, so that's done and dusted. It's not happening for the Cowboys this year.
I'm willing to say it. I'm going to put the official stamp on the Dallas Cowboys. They are turbo ass.
Turbo ass.
Turbo ass. That is the Dallas Cowboys.
The Eagles, despite having a coach they hate, are 6-2, and they have awesome skill players. Saquon Barkley jumped over a guy backwards yesterday.
Dude, they're going to fire a head coach after going 12-4 and winning a playoff game.
They really
It's going to be awesome. Yeah. I can't wait. Yeah, that Saquon highlight will live forever. You will be on your deathbed, and your great-great-great-grandson is going to say, wow, great-great-great-grandpa, you were actually young when this thing happened, and he's going to show you Saquon backwards hurdling.
Just unbelievable. Like,
yeah, it's awesome.
Can't believe that happened in a real football game. There's weren't a lot of great games really in week 9. Panthers Saints at least went down to the wire. So did Bills Dolphins. The Dolphins offense has looked great since Tua's come back. Unfortunately, they can't stop anybody, and Tyler Bass made a game-winning 61-yard field goal.
Gutsy call by Sean McDermott to kick that field goal with how bad Bass has been this year.
Yeah, no kidding. Rams Seahawks went overtime, but oh no, look at the time. We got to get to a break. No, I'm kidding. I need to say this one thing about the Seattle Seahawks.
All right, hold on. I got to get the dump button turned on.
The best thing I can say about the Seahawks is that they are no longer worthy of my attention, and I don't have to pay any attention to them this year.
Oh no.
They are turbo cooked. Scott Huff is their offensive line coach, and I want him in prison.
More like Scott Huff in paint.
Every single member of that Seahawks offensive line, with the possible exception of Charles Cross at left tackle, is a turnstile. Like, I think they should all be serving French fries at a Seattle area McDonald's. They're so bad. You're gonna have to commission Trenton to make memes of these guys.
The
payback, the karmic payback for having two Hall of Fame offensive linemen in their prime in the mid-2000s, and Walter Jones and Steve Hutchinson, has been that the Seahawks will never field an even average offensive line ever again. They have never had even an average offensive line in 20 years. It's always this. And it stinks. And also, Geno Smith threw 2 interceptions inside the 5-yard line. Every reason the Seahawks can be great yesterday, their defense was really good for virtually the entire game against the Rams. And they've got, like, awesome skill guys. Like JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba had his breakout game. Every reason they can be good, but the offensive line is every reason they're not. And it's been the case for a decade.
I would like to ask you one question about the end of the game. What was your reaction to going forward on 4th and 1 instead of kicking the field goal? Because I think
it was the right thing to do, because you
end the game.
You end the game. You play to win the game. And I believe in playing to win the game and going forward on 4th and 1. And then they ran a stretch play behind 4 guys who should be working at their local Verizon store this morning. and they got a very predictable outcome. Run a better play.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I would have thrown
Ryan Grubb, screw off back to the Pac-12 if that's all you got for me.
And I like Ryan Grubb, but yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
I hate the Seahawks so much.
I'm going to need you to cover your ears really quickly for one final take.
All right.
That Matt Stafford throw was so sick. Oh my God.
Yeah,
and I hate
man.
Matt Stafford, but oh my God, what a throw.
Literally indefensible. What are you going to do? Take a timeout. Take a timeout. Come back with some final thoughts on Chiefs Bucks tonight next on 580 Sports Talk.
Services such as Zelle, external transfers, mobile deposit, and bill pay, making it easy to choose Farmers State Bank as your community bank.
That's what I like about Farmers State Bank. Hometown banking with your neighbors and friends. That's what I like about Farmers State Bank.
In Holton, member FDIC.
WIBW Topeka.
Round and third heading for home on this red Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Chiefs, Buccaneers, 7:15 kickoff. Brendan, what's the matchup you're most interested, intrigued by in this game?
Chiefs secondary, really back 7 or so, finding a way to match up with Cade Otton because he has become one of the favorite targets for Baker Mayfield with both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin hurt. I think Otton's a fine player. You don't want a guy like Cade Otton to beat you. This Chiefs defense, if it's susceptible to anything, it has historically been susceptible to tight end play. So finding a way to neutralize him is a big deal. I know you touched on it earlier. This is not a very formidable skill position group for the Buccaneers without Godwins and Evans. I mean, I like Bucky Irving. I don't think Bucky Irving is going to carry your entire offense. Rashad White's bad. I mean, their offensive line's okay. I mean, I don't even know who else to reference in their wide receiver core at this point. Like, it's just...
Yeah, Jalen McMillan's not playing.
McMillan, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, he's
about.
not playing. He's inactive. So.
Yeah, the rookie. So, I mean, take away their one option. And look, I like Baker Mayfield, but I don't think Baker's the kind of guy who's just going to go ballistic throwing to nobodies for an entire game and win. That offense was very much predicated on, hey, we're going to let Baker be Baker, but it's a lot easier to have that happen when Mike Evans has a 48-foot catch radius. Like, he can catch anything in his way. Chris Godwin was having one of his best seasons before he got hurt. It's a lot easier to let Baker be Baker when he's got those guys. Otherwise, I mean, I'll call my shot. I'll do a Spencer here. I'll call my shot statistically. I'm going to go with 2 turnovers by Baker Mayfield today.
I can see it, especially if they're in 3rd and long all game. Yeah. And Chiefs are really good keeping you 3rd and long.
I mean, I wouldn't be entirely surprised if he threw 2 interceptions and 3 touchdowns. That's kind of been what he's done for almost all season, except for the first 2 weeks. And for a lot of it, like, that's kind of fine if you're the Bucs, but their defense has also taken a major step back this year. And you need Baker to be great with a bad offense around him. The defense being mediocre, they don't play off each other well. I have a hard time seeing the Buccaneers finding a way to win this game.
I think for me, it's the Chiefs interior line against Vita Vea. Genuinely great player. Kalijah Cansey as a rookie has also played well. I really like
Second year.
Yeah, I really liked him coming out of college.
Yeah, good player. You were all over him at the time.
I really like him. And I think those guys in the interior match up with Tooney, Humphrey, and Smith. But if the Chiefs win that matchup, like they've won it pretty much every week, it's going to give their running game a chance to continue to be not explosive, but successful and keep the offense running on time, keep them ahead of schedule, ahead of the chains. And if they do that, that might even be more valuable if the rain impacts tonight's game. I don't know how the Buccaneers are going to get enough stops.
I was going to say, if it rains a lot in Kansas City tonight, I am going to assume we get 25-plus carries from Kareem Hunt. Dude never fumbles. You're just trying to get out of there, keep everybody healthy in the rain. Just plow into them.
I could absolutely see that. Hey, folks, tomorrow night, Kansas State opens their men's basketball season. I told you to hang on to this for later. K-State opens their men's basketball season at home against the Privateers of New Orleans. I have a pair of tickets for caller number 2 to 785-272-9429. Consider it a gift for hanging out with us till the end of today's show. 785-272-9429. Caller number 2 gets 2 tickets to see K-State and New Orleans in men's basketball tomorrow night. You might want the distraction. There's like a big news thing going on tomorrow you might want to be distracted from. Anyway, we'll take one final break. Come back with the final word next. Final word time on this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, what's your final word today?
Final word for me is that I am so excited that regular season college basketball is back tonight. KU versus Howard. That might even get the main screen. I think both our local teams are going to win big tonight, the Chiefs and KU. But I'm just so happy it is finally back. KU is a big favorite, and I like the Jayhawks to cover 26.5 points. I want Rylan Griffin on the floor literally all game. Also, I'm excited to see Hunter Dickinson back.
Final word for me. If you're a Royals fan, you got to be fired up that Michael Wacha is back in the fold. 3 years, $51 million. The Royals did not act concerned about what he's going to be at age 35. They just know they want him at age 33, and they're willing to pay an appropriate price and an appropriate length of contract to make sure that they maintain an important part of their starting pitching rotation, which was the backbone for their success in the playoff season of 2024. It's a statement of intent before free agency even begins that the Royals don't view 2024 as a nice little fun thing that happened. They view it as the start of something, and they want to keep this train rolling and keep postseason baseball, contending baseball at the K for many years to come. And in the AL Central, the window for that is wide open. Chiefs football coming up next. Chiefs and Bucks. We'll react to it all tomorrow from 3 to 6. For Spencer and Brendan, I'm Dan. This is 580 Sports Talk.